All right, I think we're ready to roll.
You're listening to Words Like That with Cole Powell, a storytelling podcast. All right, folks, this is Words Like That. I'm Cole Powell, and today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite film franchises, the Mission Impossible franchise. I absolutely love these movies, with the exception of probably Mission Impossible 2. I think every movie is at least good, if not great. And the last film, Dead Reckoning Part 1, I saw that twice in theaters. I thought it was fantastic. These movies are high octane, high adrenaline, crowd-pleasing spy thrillers, and that's right up my alley. And actually, the second episode of this podcast, I did an entire section on how great Dead Reckoning Part 1 was, and I made the bold prediction that it was going to have great critic reviews, great audience word of mouth. People were going to be coming off the high of Top Gun Maverick, which was also another Tom Cruise-led crowd pleaser that was a huge box office hit the year before. And this movie was going to end up being possibly the biggest movie of the year. And I was right about some of that. It did get great reviews. It did get great word of mouth. But it did not do that well at the box office. It came in under $600 million, which is nothing to sneeze at. But for a film of this magnitude from a franchise this big with a star like Tom Cruise, particularly again coming off the Top Gun Maverick, that's not really good numbers. The previous few movies in the franchise had been, I think, without exception, making more money than the previous. And the sixth movie, Mission Impossible Fallout, was released in 2018. That made almost $800 million. So for the next installment to come below that, not really a good showing for the franchise. And I've tried to figure out why it did not do as well as I would have thought it should have done based on the quality of the film and all of the factors considered. And it's been suggested that maybe people were just tired of the franchise. And I don't really buy that, because with a franchise like this, I feel like if you're going to get tired of it, that would kind of start to set in by the sixth movie. And again, the sixth movie was the highest grossing film of the franchise with almost $800 million. I think that was the highest grossing film, certainly the highest grossing of the last few. So by the time you get to number 7, if number 6 was that big, I'm not really buying the fatigue line. Plus, it was delayed by COVID, Dead Reckoning was. So if anything, you could make the argument that there was enough time, if people were getting tired of the film franchise, to have a little bit of space and then get their appetites wet for the next installment. And if anything, maybe it lost momentum with that 5 years. That could be a more valid argument, I think. But I think really it comes down to 3 factors. First, streaming. Second, the COVID lockdowns accentuating the issue with streaming. And then third, the cinematic event known as Barbenheimer. Streaming was already starting to take a good chunk of the box office out before the COVID lockdowns, because people were becoming more accustomed to being able to sit in the comfort of their home, in their pajamas, able to pause to go to the bathroom, and watch usually some high quality content. And that's why it became increasingly necessary for movies to have a really big hook to sell themselves as a must-see. Like, you've got to go to theaters and see this. It's an event movie. That's why the Marvel movies did so well, because they were such a cultural phenomenon that everybody felt like, okay, if we're going to go to the movies, this is the movie to go to. I would get dressed, go out of my house, drive to the theater, and sit in a crowded auditorium with a bunch of strangers to watch this movie, because it's that big of a deal. After the COVID lockdowns happened, that became even more the case, because studios, for a period of time, were actually releasing films that had been intended for theatrical releases on their streaming platforms. So that just made audiences even more comfortable with, hey, you mean we can get studio theater quality films in our home without having to get dressed? Yeah, let's do this. So when theaters start opening back up, even people who weren't really concerned about going out for health reasons were still more inclined to stay home, because they had become accustomed to watching these things at home. The third issue, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, might have had a little bit better showing if it had been released at some other time of year without a lot of competition surrounding it, because it did make almost $600 million. So there were some people that did feel like, a good chunk of people who did feel like this was an event type movie. The problem is, it came out the week before the Barbie and Oppenheimer weekend. And those two movies, even together, a lot of people went to see both these movies together. Those two movies were the movies that people felt like were the event movies that they had to go see. Whereas if those movies were off the table, I think more people would have seen Mission Impossible as such. Like, hey, I really like Mission Impossible. Hadn't been in movies for a while. Yeah, I'll go out and see this. But with Barbie and Oppenheimer coming out, that took some audience off the table for Mission Impossible's first week, because they're like, no, I'm not gonna go to the movies this week. I'm gonna wait and go see Barbie and or Oppenheimer. Then, whenever those movies actually did release, that cut a significant amount out of Mission Impossible's second, third, fourth weekend, whereas under ordinary circumstances, if it had been released without that stiff competition, more people would have been going to see Mission Impossible those weekends. So, what does that mean for this movie? Well, first of all, this was actually supposed to be titled Dead Reckoning Part 2, which is why the previous movie is called Dead Reckoning Part 1. But because it didn't do so well at the box office, the studio has dropped the Part 1 from that title, and they've retitled Part 2 as The Final Reckoning, which to me, it's a little cheesier this way than if it had been a Part 2, because the Part 1, Part 2 kind of sounds like a cohesive picture, and it's going to be a big finale for the franchise, because that was kind of what the original idea was, at least my understanding. Also, I'm not hearing a lot of buzz about this movie. Again, I missed the trailer. That's kind of unusual for me, because I've usually got my hand on the pulse for the big movies coming out. So for me to have missed this trailer back in November, that's kind of weird. I had not really seen a lot about the movie until the Super Bowl TV spot this past weekend, and that's whenever I realized, there was a trailer out a few months ago. The trailer that I'm about to check out for the first time, react to live on camera, has 24 million views, which is pretty good. So that could bode well for the picture, but I'm just not really seeing a lot of excitement yet. Let's see how many views that this Super Bowl spot has. Super Bowl spot, it's got 1.5 million. It's not that great, but then again, it was just a 30-second spot. So I'm going to watch these live on camera, and if you're listening to this on an audio-only format, I'll try to describe what's going on in the trailer so you won't be completely lost, but I may get lost in the trailer and forget to do this, and if so, I apologize in advance. Here we go. This is Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning teaser trailer. Okay, we got a lot of intercut with planes flying, there's snow.
Not defined by any one action.
Okay, I'm not sure who's talking here.
Our lives are the sum of our choices.
Tom Cruise running through a tunnel. Somebody floating in Arctic Ocean. Tom Cruise running. Showing some scenes from previous movies. Maybe all those were previous movies, I'm not sure.
When the need for certainty is absolute, and the odds are deemed impossible.
Seeing shots of a lot of quick shots of action going on here.
Should he choose to accept?
He's got the key from the previous movie that unlocks the big AI thing.
He tried to save.
There's the main villain, there's Ving Rhames.
You gambled millions.
And Angela
more.
Bassett.
And now the fate of every living soul on Earth is your responsibility.
He's in a submarine. I guess that's where the AI
That's the pattern,
is located.
isn't it?
He's running. There's Kittredge.
You refuse to sacrifice the ones
Benji,
you
they're in a
hold
plane. Ving Rhames. Looks like he's floating on the bottom of a frozen lake. Haley Atwell kissed him. He's fighting with somebody with a knife, a couple of knife fights. Biplanes, hanging off a biplane.
Brother. I have no regrets.
Ving Rhames talking.
Neither should you.
He's hanging upside down from a plane, of course.
I need you to trust me.
one last time.
And that, of course, that was for us. And we did get to see who he was talking to there. Okay. All right, so let's check out the Super Bowl spot now. All right, right off the bat, I see he's running. And it's going to be shot in super widescreen here.
It's been a long time, Ethan.
Your mission.
Screen's opening up
Should you choose
more.
to accept
It's in the submarine. There's the Arctic.
everything you were, everything you've done.
Looks like it's just going to be a lot of the same shots from...
I need you to trust
Oh,
me.
that was the... Okay, that was Palm Clemente.
One last time.
Okay, so there was one other thing new in that. Okay, gotcha. It was just recycling stuff from the first trailer. People, what I saw online, people were acting like this was something new. Okay, so there were a lot of quick shots in that trailer. They're really trying to hook you in. And I said at one point there, I wasn't sure if some of that may have been from previous movies that I wasn't recognizing, but no, I think that was just a shot of him dropping down on the first movie and almost touching in the high sequence, and he almost touches the floor. I think that was the only thing that they were showing back because he had the same knife, it looked like, that he had in that scene. It looks Mission Impossible-y, which is my cup of tea. At the same time, it didn't do for me what the trailer for Dead Reckoning did. When I saw the trailer for Dead Reckoning, the first and the second trailer, both times I was like, man, this looks great. And the second trailer, it looked even better than the first. I thought it looked great on the first one. It looks like that they are trying to throw as many action sequences as possible, and the trailer is cut just really quickly. Shot after shot after shot after shot after shot. It's moving locations. It's moving action pieces, which you're going to want a lot of action in these things. That's one of the things that people love about it. That's what I love about it. But at the same time, there was nothing in particular in that really, really grabbed me. I love him hanging from the top of the plane. Of course, it's supposed to be a big deal. But, you know, when he jumped off in the previous movie, he jumped off a cliff on a motorcycle. That was pretty good. And the hanging upside down from the biplane didn't really do it for me in that. So I'm going to wait for the next trailer. I'm probably still going to go see this in theaters. Like, this is... I can't not see a Mission Impossible film in theaters at this point because I really enjoy the franchise. Now, what do I think this is going to do at the box office? Again, I'm not hearing a lot of word of mouth. There hasn't been a lot of promotion yet for this, although we're still over 3 months out. This is coming out Memorial Day weekend, so there's still time for the promotions to ramp up. There's still time for this to catch on. There's nothing really coming out around this movie. Thunderbolts, which is a Marvel property that's coming out at the beginning of May. That's going to be like in its third week or so whenever Mission Impossible comes out. I don't think there's going to be a lot of competition there unless that ends up being some kind of massive hit, which I don't think so. I don't think that film is going to do that well, particularly for a Marvel film. The next weekend, there's a new Karate Kid picture coming out. I know there are fans of the Cobra Kai series, which is following from the original continuity of the Karate Kid films. I haven't watched it, but I know there's a fan base there. And this is going to be also merging with the reboot. It's going to have Jackie Chan in it, the Karate Kid reboot. So there could be some draw there. It could be some nostalgia, plus fans of the Karate Kid reboot and the Cobra Kai series. I really don't think that's going to eat into Mission Impossible's box office take. So it's probably going to do well. It's probably going to win at least the next couple of weekends. At least its opening weekend, probably the next weekend. Right now, I'm not seeing this be the type of event movie to really get people out of their homes. If it's really, really good and gets great reviews and gets great word of mouth, since it does not have that stiff competition like the previous movie had with Barbie and Oppenheimer, it could do better than Dead Reckoning, particularly if Dead Reckoning has picked up more fans now that it's been released in streaming. I haven't checked those numbers. Maybe it has done better on streaming than it did in theaters. And if that's the case, this could do better than what I'm thinking. So far, I'm not expecting this to do that well. As we get closer and we get some hard box office tracking, my prediction may change. And also, again, if this is really good and it gets really great reviews, great word of mouth, Karate Kid can't really compete against it in that next weekend. May do pretty well. I'm still going to go see it in theaters. Right now, what do you guys think? How do you think this is going to do? Are you a fan of the Mission Impossible franchise? Did that trailer do anything for you? Or are you kind of on the fence about it? Are you tired? Is there Mission Impossible fatigue? Or do you still love the franchise and you're going to go see it, regardless of what the trailer looks like, regardless of what the word of mouth is, the critic reviews? Let us know in the comments if you're listening or watching this on a platform that allows for comments. You can also send an email to randomine.records@yahoo.com, subject line, words like that. And I will have an adapted transcript of this in article format on my Medium page. That's medium.com/SColePowell. No account required to read that article. And that's going to wrap up this episode. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.
Can't handle words like that.
Theme, Words Like That by Cole Powell. Lead in by Ryan Purser. From Wicked Woman by Four Way Stop. Original cover photo by Kelly Bagwell. Recorded at Randomine Records. Section 107 of U.S. copyright law allows for the fair use of copyrighted material for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, parody, or research.